I'm Eric Newton, and this is The Together Show. We all know relationships take work, but what is that work, and how do we do it? As a former divorce lawyer, I've watched thousands of couples break up firsthand. Having seen the worst in relationships, I decided to try to help couples stay together. So on this show, we talk to real couples and find out what love really looks like.
Being with Jay has been such a mirror that it's made me and him really look at ourselves. Like when you get triggered by somebody, when you feel like you cannot stand being in the same room with them, especially if you're intimately involved, then it's not about the partner.
Welcome to the show, everyone. Thanks for listening. This week's episodes are about taking control of our own experience of our lives. Today's show is part 2 of an interview with Ahri and Jay Golden. Listening to part 1 will definitely give you more context for what's going on today, but that said, this episode really does stand on its own. Today, we're discussing Ahri and Jay's unique and, in my opinion, very fun approach to managing conflict. I don't want to give it away, so I'm going to let them describe it for you in the episode. We're also releasing several magazine articles that sync up with our show this week. One is called My Husband's 3 Wedding Rings, and another is called My Relationship Has No Future, and That's Okay. You can find both of these at our website, www.together.guide/magazine. Let us know what you think. We'd love to hear. So with that, let's go to part 2 of our interview with Ahri and Jay Golden. And how long have you been together now?
13 years.
How does conflict play into your sex life?
Well, when you get over the conflict, it makes it better.
And when you get over it, when you get over conflict,
conflict's a whole nother topic.
It is a whole other time,
Yeah.
and I want to spend time just on conflict, but
Yeah.
specifically with regards to this question that we've been talking about, which is how intimacy flowers and over time, and how that impacts sex life. I'm curious about something that I've seen in the literature a bit, which is the notion that the conflict, if used appropriately or effectively, creates intimacy in its wake,
Definitely.
which leads to amazing sex. Then there's makeup sex, which I think is a different animal.
I don't think we've ever done makeup sex.
Yeah, I mean, I take this topic as more relevant to our first kind of 3 or 4 months, where we basically we just put ourselves in the fire in terms of conflict. I mean, we worked out so much shit in the first 3 or 4 months and had so many fights that a lot of the work that we've done since then has we've been continuing to reap the benefits of the first few months. I mean, I remember some moments where we were in arguments where it was like fire, the walls were melting, and it might not have been all yelling, it might have been a lot of silence, but there was so much intensity that we had to work through early on that I think created the foundation of the intimacy. And I find a lot of people, actually, that stuff comes up later. But for us, it all came up earlier. And everything else is kind of a derivation of it.
It's interesting because I never, before Jay had 3 long-term partners and then had dated a lot of other people between those partners. And I never was able to really contact my full pain body or like fear, or it was always kind of covered up, and I at some level I felt like I can't ever fully show myself because these guys will run the other way, and with Jay, I attribute the intensity of the first few months of our relationship to feeling really safe to go there.
Oh.
that we felt really safe to show ourselves and to be seen in the mess, because we were also at this, it wasn't only fighting, it was also like incredible connection, incredible conversations, just, so it felt like ancient, something ancient was happening. And something tribal was happening between us. Like this is something that is of the ages kind of thing. And so it felt safe to really go into stuff that I hadn't really touched. And I think that, getting through that part really brought a certain calm. And that was right before we became parents.
When you guys started to have that conflict during that period of time before kids, did it ever get to the point of pain where you thought to yourself, boy, I just don't want to deal with this?
I mean, we had a lot of tests early on. So I don't think so.
Yeah.
We deal with what?
The one I remember one time, it was the one time where I was writing in my journal and I wrote to myself, "What am I doing? He's just like me. This is like this is crazy. I don't know if this is gonna work." And then that was it. I just remember kind of like acknowledging that we're super alike, and that I knew that if I was with him, I would really have to face myself. Because if I married the knight in shining armor who was like going to come and kind of save me from the things that I didn't, save me from my struggles, that, and that's a segue into the shame piece, is that I think, being with Jay has been such a mirror that it's made me and him really look at ourselves. Like when you get triggered by somebody, when you feel like you cannot stand being in the same room with them, especially if you're intimately involved, then it's not about the partner.
Yeah, it's about you.
It's really about you.
For sure.
So then it's like, okay, I'm spinning my face off right now and I'm projecting it all over him. But really, he's in the line of fire.
Yeah.
What is it about me that I need to work on?
Yeah, each of you were in the line of fire of the other's projections, but you kept sticking it out.
Yeah.
Now, most people, especially at that age, don't have the wherewithal to stick it out when that starts to happen. It's
Yeah.
self-awareness. And was this all rooted in that you two had come to this awareness that it was time to create family and to find lifetime partnership, and you were just lucky in that way?
I think a few things. First of all, we had good role models. Our parents, both sets of our parents have been through a lot of crazy stuff, and they've used their care for one another and their partnership to help guide them. And that container of relationship was kind of a sacred thing. And so both of our parents are still together. That's something like 52 years and 42 years. So that's a factor for sure. I think another factor, we started to set some agreements early on. One that Ahri alluded to, which was to the way that I would say that is to first pause and see if the thing that's really pissing you off about the other person is something you actually just come up short yourself and it annoys you about yourself.
Yeah, it's so good.
So that became kind of an early piece that just emerged. I think another piece that emerged was another agreement, I guess, which I posed to you early on, which is if I am triggered and kind of dropping into this rough spot, I actually don't want you to come with me. So I would tell her that when I was in a balanced place, because we would trigger the shit out of each other, and then it would take hours. At first, like when we would get into that
days.
that small place, it would take hours to unravel it. And then bit by bit kind of set this agreement, said, look, if I'm triggered and trying to like mess with you and part of my whatever, my lower self or some other character within me is trying to like mess with you and pull you down, don't go. Stay high and we'll get through it more quickly.
Right. If one person can stay self-aware.
Yeah, and just present, just like you're so that and then
Like you're having your experience. It's not about me. Have your experience. I'm right here. I love you, and do your thing. I mean, it's really
I had to model that.
well, it's interesting. One of the things that's really been like a hallmark of our marriage and like what has made us work is that we've been able to identify these different characters that live inside of us. Like, oh, there's Sneaky Sally, or oh, there's like Slick Rick, or
And
oh,
you've named them.
Yeah, we've named them.
That's great.
It's great. So like when a character comes out, it's like, okay, that's, so and so. And then
Pull it off guy, the 3-point shooter.
yeah. And so then it's because that's not who I am. That's not who he is. These are behaviors that come out of trauma, that come out of being defensive and needing to protect ourselves. And so to be able to identify that if we're having if we're reacting or behaving like assholes, it's not actually who the person is. And so that has been amazing to really like to kind of separate behavior from the human being.
Yeah.
And when we started to be able to do that, we got through our conflicts so much faster. It's like, oh, here's,
The green man.
here's the green man. Yeah,
Because you were able to separate
It
the
was-
behavior from the person.
exactly. And it became sweet. It became sweet. It was like, what does the green man need?
Yeah, the jealous guy.
Yeah, what does he need right now? Does he need to feel like what? Yeah, and then tending to that need, which is very young. It's a very young need.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a collection. I look at it as a collection of inhabitants.
Yeah.
And my main mantra is these different characters have great value and importance, and they have skill if they can be supported to evolve that skill, because at some point they were stunted. But they're not allowed to just drive the bus. And if they're driving the bus, it's trouble. So the kind of greater self has to step in and say, no, actually, I'm driving the bus, but tell me what wisdom and insight you would like to share, or what you actually need here, and we'll do our best to accompany that.
Right, because Green Man is acting jealous because he's scared that he's not going to get something, and really he's trying to communicate something, which is we need X.
Or I need X. Yeah, that's right. The collective.
Yeah,
that's
the
right.
collective.
That's right.
In the one
That's
identity.
right. And he can't be squashed. Like he's too smart. He's survived for who knows how long.
Right.
It's not just. I'm sure I didn't just make this up. I'm sure I inherited it through a long line, and so he's survived for a long time.
Yeah.
So he's not going to just be squashed and
Or ignored.
caged into the back seat.
Right.
Exactly. He's smart.
I think that's an important piece too, is an awareness that we are bridging many generations before us, and that we're building something that can kind of filter what we've inherited to what we want to give to our kids. So, what stops with us? What are we here to grow through? What are we here to, what karma is going to burn through us
Yeah.
as a unit, so that we can give our kids a better, just a cleaner platform
Yeah.
from which to live.
What a privilege. Just the profound privilege of being a parent is to say the buck stops here of this generational trauma,
Totally.
and to pass to be a permeable membrane, so the good stuff comes through and the trauma stops with you.
That's right. And, some trauma does leach through, like some of it does.
It has
but
to. You're human.
Yeah, exactly. But but I'm aware of it.
Yeah.
Jay's aware of it. We're doing our best. We let our kids know we're doing our best. Like, we're in a dance with them about, really setting the foundation for them to not have to struggle with the things that we've had to struggle with.
Yeah. God, I'm so moved by that. What a genius process. So let's break it down so that we know exactly what you do. First, when a challenging emotion or experience manifests, you'll identify a character within your egoic superstructure, we'll call it, that is the one that's exemplifying that behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll name that character.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the naming of the character, you can see it as a behavior and not as the identity of the person you love, first of all. And then you ask the question, what does this character need? Why is it speaking now? What can we provide it so that it can relax?
Yes.
Then you do your best to provide that thing. And then what? And then is that the end of it?
So I'd say on the front end, the first question is this thing that's bothering the person in front of me actually something about them or something about me?
Great question.
So that's kind of the first question, because that's one of the hardest things to recognize, because it's like, oh, I hate it when they do that. And you're like, oh, why am I so angry right now? That's interesting.
Yeah.
Right? So there's a kind of, there's a question, a filtering question. And then if it is actually they're doing this thing that is really bothersome and actually not okay with me in this equation, then there's the kind of acknowledgement. I think it's first internal. Say, oh, right, okay, there's something going on here that's really bothering me. Whether or not it's something that I do or not, I'm not sure. But I want to be able to address this. And hopefully we've already set up a little bit of parameters around who some of these kind of guiding characters are. So Sneaky Sally, or, like something that is some small character that's doing this thing. And so, like you said, then that's that process. So it's identifying the character either in yourself or in the other, trying to identify what they actually need in this equation. Also recognize that there is an evolved version of this character that you can support in evolving. They have a superpower. They just have not been really using it. It's been a kind of contorted way of gaining power. So it's like, I want to support you in getting what you need and evolving to the degree that you wanted to evolve. And so it's just an identification of, let's say you have 3, 4, 2 of these key characters. I also like to give them physical identifiers. What do they look like, or do they have one certain thing, a dagger or a hammer or a megaphone that blasts everything out that they get by? It's like, okay, so I'm just acknowledging that's in the room, and maybe there's no solution. Maybe we're just okay. Hi there.
I think when you said you like took us through the cycle, and then you said, okay, and then that character just gets to rest. Is there anything more? And I think no. I think that once there's that sense of rest and there's not the fight or flight, then something opens up. Then intimacy opens up. Then there's like another layer. You've reached another layer and level of where you're headed.
And then the sex gets good.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Forget about it.
Yeah, I mean, even if it only happens, at rare times in between 3 and 6 a.m. when the kids aren't running through the room, but it happens.
That's a whole parenting conversation.
Yeah, totally.
Well, thanks for sharing all this with me.
Yeah, thank you.
High five.
Yeah.
Now, I like to end shows with a quick game of this or that. You know how this works?
Well, one question I have, did you
Time.
record all of that?
I did record all that.
Okay.
Quick time check, please. Do you mind?
Yeah. It's 12:11.
Great.
I have to go in like 3 minutes.
Okay,
Oh, really?
this or that takes less than that.
Okay.
Okay, this or that. I'm going to ask you this or that, and you're going to tell me what you prefer. Coffee or tea?
Does that include mate? that's my answer.
Mate.
Depends on how I'm feeling.
Okay.
It's funny.
Batman and Superman,
Superman.
Superman.
pirates or ninjas,
Ninja.
Pirates.
enlightenment or $1 billion,
Enlightenment. And
Enlighten-
$1 billion.
Bill Lightenment.
Enlightenment.
Okay.
Enlightenment, yeah.
And last question, if you had to either live forever as an infinity or die in the next 5 minutes, which would it be?
If you had to. Great question.
I might choose the next 5 minutes.
I'm okay living forever. I'll work it out. If I had to, yeah, I figured I could, tell stories forever.
I don't know. I think
Those
I
are
would
totally different. Great question. Totally different sectors.
All the way past humanity's end, the universe's end, for infinity.
Isn't that what we're doing anyway?
Oh, that's the question. All right, you guys. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you.
Well, that's it for the Ahri and Jay episode, folks. Thanks for listening. You can learn more about Ahri at her website, which is ahrigolden.com. That's ahrigolden.com. She's a radio producer and a photographer, and you can find her fantastic work on her website. I'll put that link in the show notes. You can learn more about Jay at wakingstar.com. That's wakingstar.com. Jay works with companies and organizations to craft the stories that they tell to the world about who and what they are. I'll put both of those links in the show notes in case you missed them here. If you liked what you heard on our show, please subscribe to us on iTunes. It makes a big difference when you do that. And please also consider donating to our Patreon campaign. You may know that we're on a mission to crush shame, and every penny really helps at this stage. You can find our campaign at patreon.com/together. That's patreon.com/together. If you have any questions or comments, or if you'd like to be on the show, please reach out via one of our platforms. You can find our website at www.together.guide. Our Facebook page is facebook.com/togethershow. Twitter and Instagram are both at together_show, or you can email me at host@together.guide. Our producer is Charlene Goto. Our web designer is Courtney Munna. Our art director and the love of my life is Aubrey Pick. I wish you were here with me with my family in Michigan. Honey, you've really got to come here next year. It's the best. Thanks once again to my guests, Ahri and Jay. Guys, you're an inspiration. I love you both. That's all for today, folks. See you next time.